Dr. Vex Tornell had seen it all in his 15 cycles at Nexus Medical Station Alpha. Or so he thought. Three-headed triaxions with simultaneous organ failures in each cranium. Gaseous vaporites requiring pressurized containment during surgery. Even that memorable shift when a crystalline Lumarian shattered into 17 pieces after a sneezing fit, requiring microgravity reassembly. But today, as he stared at his datapad, he felt the unfamiliar sensation of professional uncertainty. Another diplomatic first contact success, and now with the galaxy's emergency room, he muttered, his 4 eyes blinking in asynchronous annoyance as he reviewed the incoming patient brief. His upper left appendage absently adjusted the medical insignia on his iridescent coat. 6 stars for 6 medical specialties, a record at the station. The alert had come through the standard channels. A Type 7 emergency transport was inbound from the diplomatic sector with a newly contacted species designated human. Multiple trauma injuries. Estimated arrival 12 minutes. "Be the Dr. Tornell!" The voice came from behind him, enthusiastic and high-pitched. Too enthusiastic, too high-pitched. Vex didn't turn round. "Nurse Fonzarelli, if you're about to tell me how exciting this human arrival is, please reconsider." Glip Fonzarelli bounced into view, quite literally. His species' gelatinous lower half was designed for momentum conservation. The junior nurse's translucent body pulsed with excited bioluminescent patterns. "But doctor, it's the first human we've treated. The xenobiology database barely has anything on them. They're supposed to be endoskeletal but with regenerative capabilities and they're going to be just another patient requiring just another treatment according to just another protocol that I will have to formulate on the spot." Vex interrupted. "Standard procedure for new species, nothing to illuminate your membrane about." Station Director Captain Flox's voice crackled over the intercom. "Attention all medical staff. First human patient arriving at Bay 12. Primary trauma team to assemble. This is a Priority 1 diplomatic incident. I repeat, diplomatic incident." Vex's upper right appendage reached for his emergency kit. "See? Now it's a diplomatic incident too. Wonderful." The patient arrival alert began to pulse overhead as they made their way to Bay 12. The translucent corridors of Nexus Station curved around them, offering glimpses of the vast darkness of space, broken only by distant stars and the occasional passing vessel. "Did you read their preliminary biological assessment?" Glip asked, bouncing alongside Vex. "They're water-based, like me, but with calcium structures, and they communicate through controlled air vibrations." "Fascinating," Vex replied without an ounce of fascination. "Just remember the universal medical protocol. All species deserve equal care, even the ones that won't stop talking." As they rounded the final curve to Bay 12, Vex saw the assembled team. Representatives from 8 different species, all trained in emergency medicine, all looking as uncertain as he felt. First contacts were always tricky medical situations, but they had procedures for this. They always had procedures. The airlock at Bay 12 began to cycle. "Remember," Vex announced to the assembled team, "whatever comes through that door is just another patient." The door slid open, and chaos poured in. The human arrived horizontal, strapped to a hover gurney, surrounded by a flurry of diplomatic personnel and emergency responders. Even from a distance, Vex could see the red fluid, presumably blood, soaking through the compression bandages. "Male human, name Mack Rodriguez, age 34 Earth years," rattled off one of the diplomatic aides, a siphon with the characteristic monotone of their species. "Involved in mechanical failure during station docking. Multiple lacerations, probable internal hemorrhaging, blunt force trauma to the cranium, and compound fracture of lower right limb." Vex approached the gurney, medical scanner already humming in his grip. The human was smaller than he'd expected, bipedal, as the brief had mentioned, with a curious layer of short, dark fibers covering parts of its face. The eyes were closed, but the chest moved in regular intervals. "Atmosphere requirements?" Vex asked briskly. "Nitrogen-oxygen mix, standard class M," replied the aide. "Temperature tolerance between 10 and 35 degrees Celsius, optimal around 21. Vex nodded and began his scan, moving methodically from cranium to lower extremities. The readings made him blink all 4 eyes simultaneously. a rare sign of surprise. "This can't be right," he muttered, recalibrating his scanner and trying again. Nurse Glip hovered nearby, quite literally floating several centimeters off the ground in excitement. "What is it, Doctor?" "According to these readings, this human has lost nearly 20% of its blood volume, has a fractured skull, 3 broken ribs, a punctured lung, and a compound fracture of the right tibia. That's this internal support structure," he added, pointing to the leg bone protruding gruesomely through the skin. "Yes, and—" Glip pulsed anxiously. "And it's still alive?" Vex said, wonder creeping into his voice despite himself. "Not just alive, stable. Any Ventulian would be dead. A Morphian would be in suspended animation. Even my species would be in critical condition." At that moment the human's eyes fluttered open. They were brown, Vex noted clinically, with visible blood vessels and dilated pupils. "Hey," the human said, its voice strained but coherent. "That's a lot of aliens. Am I still alive?" Vex leaned forward. "Yes, Mr. Rodriguez. You are at Nexus Medical Station Alpha. I am Dr. Vex Tornell, Chief of Emergency Medicine. You have sustained significant injuries, but we will be treating you immediately." The human, Mack attempted to nod, then winced. "Call me Mack. And yeah, I figured the injuries part. Docking clamp gave way. Not my best day." He coughed, and Vex noted with alarm that red fluid speckled his lips. "How bad is it?" Before Vex could formulate an appropriately diplomatic response, Glip bounced forward, his translucent body pulsing with excited blues and greens. "You should be dead," Glip announced cheerfully. "Your biological resilience is extraordinary. We've never seen anything like it." "Nurse Fonzarelli," Vex said sharply, "please, prepare treatment room 1 for emergency surgery." "Oh, yes, Doctor." Glip bounced away, leaving a small trail of glistening residue on the floor. "Sorry about that," Vex said to Mack. "Now, we need to—" "Wait," Mack interrupted, attempting to sit up before Vex gently restrained him. "What did the jello guy mean? I should be dead." Vex sighed. "Nurse Fonzarelli is enthusiastic but correct. Your injuries are severe by any standard we're familiar with. The fact that you remain conscious and coherent is unexpected." "Ha!" Mack said, then coughed again, more violently this time. "Well, we humans are pretty tough. My grandpa fell off a 3-story building once and walked away with just a limp." Vex's 4 eyes blinked in rapid sequence, the equivalent of raised eyebrows. "Fascinating. Now, if you will allow us, we need to begin treatment immediately." As the medical team moved Mack toward treatment room 1, Vex found himself reassessing his initial impression. This wasn't just another patient. This was something new. Something that defied his 15 cycles of medical experience. For the first time in years, Dr. Vex Tornell was intrigued. Word spread quickly through Nexus Medical Station Alpha. By the time Mack Rodriguez had been in treatment room 1 for 30 minutes, the observation gallery was filled with medical personnel from all shifts. 3 xenobiologists had abandoned their research to witness the procedure. Even the station's cafeteria workers had found excuses to deliver nutrient trays to the medical level. Inside the treatment room, Dr. Vex Tornell worked with methodical precision, his 4 appendages moving in perfect coordination. 2 manipulated surgical tools, sealing ruptured blood vessels and reinflating the collapsed lung. A 3rd monitored vital signs and administered medications. The 4th documented everything for the medical database. "Remarkable cellular activity," noted Dr. Zilf, a quantum healer whose species existed partially in another dimension. Her semi-thumbprint form hovered by Mack's head, where she was using specialized energy fields to address the skull fracture. "The bone is already showing signs of calcification. At this rate, preliminary healing will occur within days, not weeks." "The blood replenishment rate is off our scales," added Dr. Mareks, a stocky gravitoid responsible for the circulatory aspects of the surgery. "We've only supplemented with 300 milliliters of synthetic blood, and his pressure is already stabilizing." Mack, conscious but sedated, looked around blearily at the assembled alien medical team. "Is this normal?" he slurred, "having an audience while you're being operated on?" "For a new species with your particular characteristics, yes," Vex replied, not looking up from the leg where he was setting the compound fracture. Your physiology is educational. The doors to the treatment room slid open and Captain Fox entered. The station director's insectoid form seemed more rigid than usual, a sign of stress among his species. All 6 of his limbs were twitching subtly. Dr. Tornell, Flock's mandibles clicked rapidly as he spoke, I need a full report. The Human Diplomatic Corps is demanding updates every 15 minutes. They're concerned we might not have the expertise to treat their kind. Vex's upper left eye swiveled to regard Phlox while the others remained focused on his work. You may inform them that their concern is misplaced. The patient is responding well to treatment. Extraordinarily well, in fact. Define extraordinarily, Phlox demanded. Dr. Zilf's ethereal form rippled, her equivalent of raising a hand. If I may, Director, based on initial cellular observation, humans appear to heal at approximately 3 to 5 times the rate of the average known sentient species. Their blood-clotting mechanisms are highly efficient, their immune response is robust, and their pain tolerance is exceptional. Pain tolerance? Phlox's antennae quivered. I can hear everything you're saying, Mack interjected from the table. And yeah, this hurts. But I've had worse hangovers. A hangover being? Vex inquired, momentarily distracted. A voluntary poisoning ritual, explained one of the xenobiologists from the observation gallery. Humans routinely ingest toxins for recreational purposes. They what? Phlox's exoskeleton rattled in alarm. Look, Mack said, attempting to prop himself up on an elbow before Vex gently pushed him back down. I feel like I've become some kind of science experiment here. Can we focus on fixing me up? We are, Vex assured him. But your species represents a significant medical discovery. Your healing abilities alone could revolutionize trauma care protocols across the galaxy. Great, Mack sighed. I came to space to fix satellites, and now I'm a medical breakthrough. Captain Phlox stepped closer, mandibles working thoughtfully. Dr. Tornell, once the immediate treatment is complete, I want a full documentation protocol. Tissue samples, cellular regeneration rates, biochemical analysis, everything. This is now a priority 1 research opportunity. With the patient's consent, Vex added firmly, all 4 eyes now fixed on Phlox. Of course, Phlox waved a limb dismissively. But make sure he understands the importance. The applications could be immense. As Phlox exited, the medical team returned to their work with renewed vigor. Vex noticed that Nurse Glip was practically vibrating with excitement as he assisted, his gelatinous body cycling through colors that indicated extreme interest among his species. Nurse Fonzarelli, Vex said quietly, please contain your enthusiasm. It's distracting. Sorry, Doctor, Glip replied, dimming his colors slightly. But this is the most exciting thing to happen since the crystalline Lumarian shattered. That was a medical emergency, not an entertainment event, Vex reminded him. Oh, I remember that guy, Mack said unexpectedly. Reggie told me about him. One of our engineers helped put him back together. Vex paused, all 4 eyes focusing on Mack. A human engineer assisted with that procedure. Yeah, apparently your medical team was having trouble with the fine motor control needed for some of the smaller shards. Reggie has experience with microcircuitry. The medical team exchanged glances. Vex felt a theory forming. Mr. Rodriguez, Mack, how often do humans injure themselves during routine tasks? Mack considered this through his sedation haze. Pretty often, I guess. We're kind of clumsy sometimes. Why? And these injuries, they heal without intervention? Minor stuff, sure. Cuts, bruises, sprains, we just walk it off. Vex's upper right appendage made a note on his datapad. Fascinating. It appears your species may have evolved rapid healing as an adaptation to your inherent, accident-prone nature. Are you calling humans clumsy? Mack asked, attempting to sound offended but failing through the sedation. I'm calling humans remarkably resilient, Vex corrected. Now please remain still while we complete the procedure. Despite your impressive healing capabilities, you still have a bone protruding through your skin. As Vex returned his attention to the compound fracture, he couldn't help but notice that the bone was already showing signs of preliminary fusion, something that should have been impossible in the time frame. Whatever these humans were, they were going to change everything about intergalactic medicine, and possibly give Captain Phlox a nervous breakdown in the process. 3 days after the surgery, Nexus Medical Station Alpha was in a state of barely controlled chaos. Vex Tornell stood in the doorway of Mack Rodriguez's recovery room, watching with growing concern as yet another group of medical specialists crowded around the human's bed. This was the fourth such group today, xenophysiologists from the research division, eager to document every aspect of human healing. "And you're saying the bone is already knitting?" asked an ethereal researcher, her translucent form hovering over Mack's leg cast. 37% fusion in just 72 hours, confirmed a mechanoid technician, displaying a holographic scan. "Nothing in our database compares to this rate of ossification." Mack, for his part, looked increasingly uncomfortable with the attention. He shot Vex a pleading look over the heads of his visitors. Vex cleared his throat, all three of them simultaneously producing a sound like gravel in a centrifuge. The room fell silent as everyone turned to him. "I believe my patient requires rest," he announced. "All non-essential personnel, please exit the room immediately." After a flurry of protests and reluctant departures, only Vex and Nurse Glip remained with Mack. "Thanks, Doc," Mack sighed, adjusting himself on the recovery bed. "I was starting to feel like a zoo exhibit." "The interest in your physiology is understandable, if poorly managed," Vex replied, checking Mack's vital signs. "Your healing rate has become the primary topic of discussion throughout the medical community. I've received 17 research proposals in the last day alone." "Great," Mack muttered. "Just what I always wanted. To be a medical curiosity." Glip bounced excitedly beside the bed. "But you're revolutionizing our understanding of biological resilience. Your cellular regeneration patterns have already inspired 2 new treatment protocols." Mack raised an eyebrow. "Is that why that insect-looking doctor was talking about injecting himself with my blood earlier?" Vex dropped his datapad. "Someone said what?" Before Mack could elaborate, the medical emergency alert blared through the station. Vex's communicator activated immediately. "Dr. Tornell to Emergency Bay 3. Dr. Tornell to Emergency Bay 3, medical emergency." "I must attend to this," Vex said, already moving toward the door. "Nurse Fonzarelli, monitor Mr. Rodriguez and ensure he is not disturbed." "Yes, doctor," Glip bounced enthusiastically. When Vex arrived at Emergency Bay 3, he found a scene that confirmed his worst fears. Dr. Zelb, a junior physician with the characteristic exoskeleton of the arthropodian species, lay on a gurney. His normally blue carapace had turned a sickly green, and one of his limbs was grotesquely swollen. "What happened?" Vex demanded, scanning the patient quickly. Dr. Morix looked up from where he was administering emergency treatment. "He injected himself with a synthesized version of human platelets," he said grimly. He believed it might enhance his natural molting process. "He did what?" Vex's 4 eyes blinked in rapid succession. "It seems he's not the only one," Morax continued. "We have reports of at least 3 other medical staff experimenting with human direct treatments on themselves." Vex administered a counteragent to the allergic reaction while mentally composing the strongly worded station-wide announcement he would soon be making. "Human biology is not compatible with arthropodian physiology. This was covered in basic xenomedicine." "The healing potential was too tempting," Moritz said quietly. "You've seen the Rodriguez case. Many believe this could be the greatest medical breakthrough in cycles." After stabilizing Dr. Gelb, Vex stormed directly to Captain Phlox's office. He found the station director engaged in a heated discussion with several members of the ethics committee. "Cannot simply treat the human as a research subject," one committee member was saying as Vex entered. "There are protocols for new species integration, but the potential benefits," Phlox began, "are meaningless if we compromise our ethical standards," Vex interrupted. "Captain, we have a situation developing. Medical staff are experimenting on themselves with synthesized human biomatter." Phlox's antennae went rigid. "How many?" "4 confirmed cases so far, one serious reaction requiring treatment. The Ethics Committee representative, a dignified, vaporous entity contained in a specialized environment suit, expanded in alarm, her species equivalent of a gasp. "This is precisely what we feared," she said. "The humans' healing abilities have created a research frenzy that is bypassing all standard protocols. I want all unsanctioned research halted immediately," Vex demanded, "and we need clear guidelines established before more harm is done." Phlox's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of distress. "Agreed, but Dr. Tornell, you must understand the pressure we're under. The Galactic Medical Council has already requested full documentation on human physiology. 3 research institutions have offered funding for extended studies, none of which justifies medical staff injecting themselves with incompatible biological materials," Vex replied firmly. When Vex returned to Mack's recovery room, he found an unexpected scene. Mack was sitting up in bed, apparently demonstrating something to an enthralled audience of medical interns. "So, we call it a scarb," Mack was saying, pointing to a small healing wound on his arm. "It's just dried blood and skin cells that form a natural bandage. Happens automatically." "Fascinating," exclaimed a young crystalline intern, her facets gleaming with excitement. "And it prevents infection?" "Usually, yeah. Unless it gets dirty or you pick at it too much." "You pick at your wounds?" asked another intern, horrified. Mack shrugged. "Sometimes. It's a bad habit." Vex cleared his throat again, and the interns scattered like startled vaporites. Mack had the good grace to look sheepish. "Sorry, Doc, they seemed genuinely interested, and I was bored." "Mr. Rodriguez," Vex said, settling into the visitor's chair beside the bed, "we need to discuss the situation that's developing." Vex explained about the unauthorized experiments and the growing medical frenzy surrounding human physiology. Mack listened with increasing alarm. "So what you're saying is, I'm causing a medical crisis just by being here?" "Not you specifically," Vex clarified. "Rather, the discovery of human healing capabilities has created a situation where scientific curiosity is overriding established protocols." "That doesn't sound good." "It is not," Vex agreed. "The Ethics Committee is convening an emergency session to establish guidelines for human-based research, but in the meantime, we need to manage expectations." Mack ran a hand through his hair, a human gesture Vex had noted several times. "Look, Doc, I'm just a satellite repair technician. I didn't sign up to be some kind of medical revolution." "Nevertheless, that is what you've become," Vex said. "Your species' remarkable healing abilities could potentially benefit countless others if we can study them properly and safely." Mack was quiet for a moment. "So what do you need from me?" "For now, patience. And perhaps your assistance in explaining to my colleagues that humans are, as you put it earlier, just built different. That your biology is unique to your species and cannot simply be transferred to others." "I can do that," Mack nodded, "though I'm not sure how much weight my words carry around here." "More than you might imagine," Vex said. "You are currently the most discussed individual on the station." As if on cue, Captain Flock's voice came over the station-wide communication system. "Attention all medical personnel. By order of the station director and the Ethics Committee, all unsanctioned research involving human biological materials is hereby suspended. A formal research protocol will be established within 24 hours. Any violations will result in immediate disciplinary action." Mack raised an eyebrow. "That sounds serious." "It is," Vex confirmed, "but necessary. We cannot allow scientific enthusiasm to override safety and ethics." "Well," Mack said with a slight smile, "at least things can't get any more complicated, right?" At that precise moment, Nurse Glip burst into the room, his gelatinous form pulsing with urgent reds and oranges. "Doctor, emergency at Docking Bay 7. A human diplomatic shuttle has had a catastrophic failure during docking. Multiple casualties reported, including more humans." Vex and Mack exchanged looks. "You were saying," Vex said dryly. "Docking Bay 7 was a scene of controlled chaos when Dr. Vex Tornell arrived. Emergency response teams were already triaging casualties, both human and alien. The diplomatic shuttle had apparently experienced a catastrophic docking clamp failure, ironically similar to Mack's accident, but on a larger scale. "Status report," Vex demanded, approaching the triage coordinator, a multi-limbed Octavian whose appendages were simultaneously scanning patients and updating medical records. 17 casualties total, the coordinator reported efficiently. 7 humans, 10 station personnel of various species, injuries ranging from minor contusions to severe trauma, 2 critical, 1 crystalline ambassador with multiple fractures, and 1 human with thoracic perforation. Vex's eyes swiveled to take in the scene. The medical teams were working efficiently, but he immediately noticed something concerning. They were prioritizing the alien casualties over the humans. "Why are the human patients receiving delayed attention?" he demanded. The triage coordinator's skin flushed a defensive purple. "Based on observed recovery rates from the Rodriguez case, we calculated that human patients have a greater probability of stabilizing autonomously, thereby allowing us to focus resources on species with less robust healing capabilities." "That is not protocol," Vex said sharply. "Triage is based on injury severity, not species healing capabilities. Redirect resources immediately." As the coordinator rushed to comply, Vex moved through the emergency area, quickly assessing patients. The humans did indeed seem to be faring better than their alien counterparts with comparable injuries, but that didn't justify neglect. He reached the critical human patient, a woman in her 40s according to her identification, with a piece of metal debris embedded in her chest. Despite the severity of the injury, she was conscious and, remarkably, trying to help the medical technician treating her. "The fragment is likely piercing the lower lobe of my right lung," she was saying through gritted teeth. "Based on the angle, I don't think it's reached the heart." "Please remain still, Dr. Chen," the technician urged. "The Tornell is here now." Vex scanned the woman quickly. "You have medical training?" he asked as he assessed the wound. "Emma Chen, Chief Medical Officer for the Human Diplomatic Corps," she replied, wincing. "Though I usually prefer my patients to be on the table, not to be the patient." "A preference we share," Vex said, already plotting the safest extraction path for the debris. "The fragment has indeed penetrated your lung, but missed major vessels. Your assessment was accurate." "Told you," she said to the technician with a pained smile. "Dr. Johnchen, I need to remove this fragment and seal the wound immediately. Your right lung has already partially collapsed." "Do it," she nodded. "No anesthesia if you can manage it. I want to observe." Vex blinked all 4 eyes in surprise. "That would be extremely painful. I'm aware, but this is first contact medicine at its finest. Professional curiosity outweighs comfort." Against his better judgment, Vex proceeded with a local anesthetic only. As he worked to remove the fragment and repair the damage, Dr. Chen remained conscious, occasionally asking surprisingly insightful questions about his techniques. "Your surgical approach is fascinating," she commented as he sealed the lung tissue. "The regenerative matrix you're applying, is that standard for all species?" "It is adaptable based on cellular structure," Vex explained, somewhat amazed at her composure. "Your species' remarkable healing rate should enhance its effectiveness significantly." Nearby, Vex was aware of Nurse Glip assisting with other human patients, applying the techniques they'd refined during Mack's treatment. The gelatinous nurse moved with unexpected efficiency, his enthusiasm now channeled into productive action. As Vex completed the procedure on Dr. Chen, an urgent call came from across the bay. "Dr. Tornell, the crystalline ambassador's condition is deteriorating, multiple system failures." Vex secured Dr. Chen's wound and rushed to the ambassador's side. The crystalline alien was in critical condition, their normally translucent body turning cloudy, a sign of severe distress in their species. Multiple fractures ran through their crystalline form, and their frequency harmonics, the equivalent of vital signs, were becoming erratic. "Standard regenerative matrices are failing," reported the attending physician. "The fracture patterns are too complex for conventional reassembly." Vex assessed the situation quickly. The ambassador's particular crystalline structure made conventional treatment difficult. What they needed was... Micro-precision reassembly, Vex muttered, remembering what Mack had said about the previous crystalline patient. Just then, Dr. Chen's voice came from behind him. She had somehow managed to walk over, despite her recent chest surgery. "You should be resting," Vex admonished. "I can help," she said, studying the ambassador's condition. "This is similar to microscopic cell repair in human medicine. We use a technique called nanoscale surgical latticing. We don't have the equipment for that here," Vex began. "You don't need specialized equipment," Dr. Chen insisted. "Just a stable frequency emitter recalibrated to match the ambassador's crystalline resonance and a microgravity field to prevent further fracturing during the procedure." Vex stared at her. That might actually work. Working together, Vex and Dr. Chen implemented the improvised treatment. The human doctor's steady hands and experience with microscopic surgery proved invaluable, while Vex's knowledge of crystalline physiology guided the process. Gradually, the ambassador's condition stabilized, their body slowly regaining its natural translucence. By the time the emergency was contained, something remarkable had happened. The human and alien medical teams were working in seamless coordination, each contributing their specialized knowledge. The humans' practical experience with trauma, born from their fragile yet remarkably resilient nature, complemented the aliens' advanced technology and diverse species knowledge. Captain Phlox arrived as the last patients were being moved to recovery. His insectoid form seemed less rigid now, his mandibles clicking in a more measured rhythm, a sign of cautious approval. "Dr. Tornell," he chittered, "I've been monitoring the situation. Your team's performance was exemplary." "It was a collaborative effort," Vex replied, all four eyes focused on the captain. "The human medical personnel contributed significantly to our success." "So I observed," Phlox said. "Perhaps there is more to learn from these humans than just their remarkable healing abilities." "Indeed," Vex agreed. "Their adaptability and practical approach to emergency medicine is as valuable as their physiology." Dr. Chin approached, moving carefully but steadily despite her recent injury. "Captain Phlox, I believe this incident has demonstrated something important about human-alien medical cooperation." "And what is that, Doctor?" Phlox's antennae quivered with interest. "That we're all better served by combining our knowledge rather than simply studying each other as curiosities," she said. "Yes, humans heal quickly. It's an evolutionary adaptation to our particularly accident-prone existence on a high-gravity world with predators. But our medical techniques have evolved alongside that ability, focused on practical solutions rather than theoretical perfection." Vex found himself nodding in agreement. The improvisational approach the human team demonstrated today saved lives that might have been lost following standard protocols. Phlox's compound eyes reflected the emergency bay lights as he considered this. Then perhaps it's time for a new protocol, one that incorporates human medical practices into our existing framework. 3 weeks later, Nexus Medical Station Alpha had undergone a transformation. Where once there had been separate treatment areas for different species groups, now there was an integrated approach. Human medical officers worked alongside alien counterparts, each learning from the other's techniques. Dr. Vex Tornell stood in the newly designated Adaptive Medicine Wing, watching as Mack Rodriguez, now fully recovered and walking with only the slightest limp, demonstrated to a group of alien medical students how to apply a simple Earth technology called a tourniquet. "It's low-tech, but it works," Mack was explaining. "When you don't have instant access to regenerative matrices or molecular sealants, sometimes you just need to stop the bleeding until help arrives." The students, representing 12 different species, watched with fascination as Mack wrapped the simple device around a training mannequin. Vex noted with approval that they were taking detailed notes. Sometimes the simplest solutions were the most effective. "Impressive demonstration," said Dr. Chen, appearing beside Vex. Her own recovery had been remarkably quick, just as he'd expected. From satellite technician to medical instructor in less than a month. "Mr. Rodriguez has a natural talent for teaching," Vex observed, "and an impressive practical knowledge of emergency first aid." "Most humans do," Dr. Chen said with a smile. When you grow up on a planet where anything from a bee sting to a car crash might happen on any given day, you learn to be prepared. Your species' evolutionary path is fascinating, Vex commented. To develop such remarkable healing abilities alongside such apparent fragility, we prefer to think of it as a balance, Dr. Chen replied. We break easily, but we fix easily too. Across the room, Nurse Glip was demonstrating to the human medical team how to use a vaporous suspension field for treatment of gravity-sensitive patients. His gelatinous form pulsed with professional blues and greens, his earlier overexcitement now channeled into effective teaching. The new Intergalactic Medical Exchange Program has already received over 300 applications, Dr. Chen noted. Everyone wants to be part of the human-alien medical integration. And the research into human healing factors? Vex inquired. Proceeding ethically and carefully, she assured him. No more self-experimentation by overeager doctors. The proper protocols are in place. Captain Phlox entered the adaptive medicine wing, his insectoid form moving with the precise dignity of his position. The medical staff straightened respectfully as he approached Vex and Dr. Chen. Doctors, he greeted them, mandibles clicking softly. I've just received word from the Galactic Medical Council. They've officially approved the new human-integrated medical protocols for all intergalactic facilities. What began here will now spread throughout known space. That's excellent news, Captain, Dr. Chen said. Indeed, Phlox continued. And they've requested that Dr. Tornell and yourself co-author the definitive guide on cross-species emergency medicine. Vex blinked his 4 eyes in sequence, his species' expression of pleased surprise. I would be honored to collaborate with Dr. Chen. As would I, Dr. Chen agreed. Though I must warn you, human medical textbooks tend to include an inordinate number of anecdotes and humorous sidebars. I have come to appreciate the human approach to education, Vex said, surprising himself with the admission. As they discussed the details of the upcoming project, a commotion at the entrance to the wing caught their attention. A group of maintenance workers, both human and alien, were being treated for minor injuries. What happened? Captain Phlox demanded. One of the human workers, sporting an impressive bruise on his forehead, grinned sheepishly. Gravity plate malfunction in maintenance shaft 7. We were calibrating the new human-friendly settings when the whole system reset. He pointed to his alien colleagues, who had similar minor injuries. We all bounced around pretty good before the emergency stabilizers kicked in. Captain Phlox's mandibles clicked in irritation. This is precisely why proper safety protocols must be followed, regardless of species. Yes, sir, the maintenance crew chorused, though the humans seemed less concerned than their alien counterparts. The Chen suppressed a smile. I'll handle this group, Captain. All minor injuries, they'll be back to work within the hour. As Dr. Chen led the maintenance crew to treatment stations, Vex found himself watching with newfound appreciation. The humans were already joking about their injuries, comparing bruises and laughing about who had bounced highest during the malfunction. Their alien colleagues, initially bewildered by this reaction to physical trauma, were gradually beginning to join in the banter. Remarkable, Vex murmured. Doctor? Nurse Glip had sidled up beside him, his gelatinous form now a calm professional blue. Their attitude toward injury, Vex explained. It's not just their physical healing that's exceptional. It's their psychological resilience. They treat injuries as almost inconsequential. I've been studying that, Glib bubbled enthusiastically. They call it gallows humor. It's a psychological adaptation to frequent physical trauma. Fascinating coping mechanism. Vex nodded. Perhaps that should be a chapter in our medical guide. Later that cycle, as Vex was completing his shift documentation, Mack Rodriguez stopped by his office. The human moved with almost normal mobility now, just 3 weeks after injuries that would have incapacitated most species for months. Heading back to the diplomatic corps tomorrow, Mack announced. Wanted to say goodbye and thanks for patching me up. You are welcome, though your own biology did most of the work, Vex replied, rising from his desk. Your contribution to our medical understanding has been invaluable. Mack waved a hand dismissively. All I did was bleed impressively and heal faster than your computers predicted." "You did considerably more than that," Vex countered. "You helped bridge a gap in medical understanding that might have taken decades to cross otherwise." Mack seemed uncomfortable with the praise. "Well, just doing my part for interspecies relations, though next time I think I'll stick to fixing satellites rather than becoming a medical curiosity." "A wise preference," Vex agreed. Then, after a moment's hesitation, he extended his upper right appendage, a gesture he rarely offered. "Safe travels, Mack Rodriguez." Mack looked surprised, then grinned and shook the offered appendage. "Thanks, Doc. Keep those scalpels sharp." After Mack had left, Vex returned to his desk and added a final note to the official documentation of the case that had changed intergalactic medicine forever. The remarkable healing capabilities of humans ultimately proved less significant than what those capabilities revealed about their species. Evolved on a high-gravity world filled with dangers, humans developed not only rapid physical recovery, but an equally impressive psychological resilience. Their approach to medicine, practical, adaptable, and often improvised, reflects a species accustomed to injury and recovery as a normal part of existence. Perhaps the most valuable lesson is not how quickly humans heal, but how they have integrated the inevitability of injury into their medical science, their culture, and their humor. In doing so, they have developed insights that complement our more theoretical approach to medicine. The future of intergalactic medicine will be stronger for this integration of perspectives. Sometimes, as humans might say, you need to break something to understand how best to fix it. Vex saved the file and shut down his data terminal. Outside his office window, the vast darkness of space stretched endlessly, filled with countless species, each with their own biology, their own challenges, their own solutions. For the first time in many cycles, Dr. Vex Tornell was genuinely excited about what tomorrow might bring. In the station's medical database, a new protocol was officially designated, the human factor, a revolutionary approach to emergency medicine that would soon spread throughout the galaxy. And in the newly established human sector of Nexus Station, Mack Rodriguez was telling anyone who would listen about the time he accidentally revolutionized intergalactic medicine just by being really bad at docking procedures.